Our Bible story this year is about one of the more interesting Old Testament characters who had a very exciting life, went through a lot of things, but God was with him all the way through it. So we're going to be meeting Joseph, and we're going to be seeing some of the things that went on in his life. So he's going to join us today to tell us his story. Joseph, why don't you come on out here?
Well, thank you, Pastor Tim. It's a pleasure to be here.
We're glad to have you. So, tell us, how did you end up where you are now?
Wow, has God done some amazing things in my life with ups and downs. It is incredible. It started a long time ago. I have a large family. I'm one of 12 sons that was born. I'm number 11 in line. The one younger than me and I got along really good. His name was Benjamin. My older brothers and I really didn't do very well. See, as I was growing up, my father tended to take a little bit more time for me and treat me a little more special than all the rest. He even went as far as to make a beautiful multicolored coat for me. My outer cloak that I would wear when I would be out watching the sheep to keep me warm in the cool weather. And it was beautifully put together, and everyone else just had plain colored clothes. It was something really special. And that caused a little bit of jealousy from my brothers because they didn't get something special like that from Dad. Well, one night I had a couple of dreams, and it was kind of unnerving, a dream that you remember, that I'm sure it meant something. So I went to my brothers and I said, I had this dream. And in my dream, we were out in the fields. And we were cutting down the wheat, and we were standing it up and bundling it up, and we each were doing our own sheaves of wheat. And in my dream, my sheaf of wheat stood upright, and all of yours all bowed down to mine. Well, you can figure kind of how that made my brothers feel when I told them that dream, but it was just an amazing thing. And then I had another dream, and I went and told them, and I told my father, I said, I had this dream that the stars and the sun and the moon bowed down to me. And my brothers just thought I was just a dreamer crazy out of my mind, and it kind of made them a little bit mad that I would be that way. And even my father rebuked me for it, but he remembered that. Why would these things bow down to me? I'm a nobody. I'm not even the oldest son. Well, one day my brothers were out taking the sheep to a far fields a long ways away, and my father needed me to go check on them. So I said, absolutely. I put on my beautiful coat of colors. People could see me a long ways having that coat on. And when I finally found them, I could see them over in the field on the side of the hills. I could see all the sheep, and I could see there was Reuben and Simeon, and yeah, that's them over there. But they could also see me. And they had envy in their hearts, and they had anger towards me in their hearts. And they were not looking forward to seeing me coming. And I found out that while I was getting closer to them, they started figuring out how to get rid of me. They wanted to kill me. My oldest brother didn't want that to happen. They said, no, don't kill him. Instead, let's throw him down in this cistern, this big pit that we would dig to hold water for the dry season. So my brothers decided, okay, we'll do that for now. So when I got closer, I didn't expect hugs, but I also didn't expect them to grab me, rip my coat off of me, and throw me down in about 15 to 20 feet deep down in this hole. I didn't know what was going on, but I could hear them talking up there. They took my coat, and they were deciding what they were going to do with me. They said, let's take his coat, and we'll rip it, and we'll smear it with some sheep blood. And then we'll tell Dad that he must have gotten killed by an animal. We found his cloak, but that's it. Well, I wasn't exactly excited to hear this news. There was nothing I could do. I didn't do anything wrong to be thrown down into that pit. But God knew where I was, and He had a very special plan for me being in that pit at that time. And then I heard my brothers sitting down up there around the pit, eating their lunch, continuing to talk about what they were going to do with me, when in the distance, a caravan was coming that was going to be selling spices in the land of Egypt. That's a long ways away from where I lived. And they decided, hey, let's take Joseph and let's sell him to the caravan that's going. We'll never see him again. We can be rid of him. I wasn't exactly excited to hear that one either. They yanked me up and they sold me for about 8 ounces of silver, about 20 pieces of silver. They sold their own brother to be shipped off to Egypt. Well, I could have a pretty bad attitude right about now. Stuck in a pit, brothers wanted to kill me, going back and telling Dad a lie about what happened to me, and now I'm being shipped off to Egypt. I had a choice to make, to have a good attitude or a bad attitude, but I knew God was in control. Well, in Egypt, the slaves were sold. You didn't know who you would be sold to. I didn't know if I would become someone working with chickens or someone in the Pharaoh's house. But God knew the plan for me, and he had me being placed to be sold to the house of Potiphar. He was the captain of the guard. No second-rate stuff there. And I served in the house of Potiphar. Now, as I was going about my work, I still had a choice to have a good attitude or a bad attitude, but I knew what would bring glory to the Lord. So, if I had a task to do, I did it full-heartedly, no complaining. If I had multiple tasks to do, well, I had to do them, because as a slave, you didn't have the option, but I could have a good attitude about it. And I worked inside the house and outside the house, and pretty soon, I built up a reputation of being a good worker, and Potiphar put me in charge of his entire estate because I was a good worker, had a good attitude, I was honest, did the job I was supposed to do. So I was in the house quite a bit too. Then there was a couple of times that Potiphar's wife saw me in the house and she started to flirt with me. Now this wasn't right and I knew it. So when this happened, I would go the other direction. I could be polite but turn around and walk away. But then it happened more and more, and I knew that that wouldn't be the right thing to do. One day I came into the house because I had tasks to do in there and all the other servants were gone. The guards were gone. But Potiphar's wife was still in the house. And she got closer to me and reached out and grabbed my cloak and said, "Joseph, just come and be with me. I would rather be with you than with my husband." Oh no, I knew that that was wrong. I said, "No way," and I turned to run away, and she had a hold of my cloak, and I thought, oh well, and I left it there, and I ran out of the house, because I knew what would be honorable to the Lord. I had to get out of there. And as soon as I made it through the doors, she yelled for the guards. She said, "That slave that is in my house tried to make an advance. He tried to flirt with me. Look, I have his cloak still. He left it when he ran." That was a lie. That wasn't the truth at all. And they came, got me, and then she told her husband about this, and boy, you know what happened then? Immediately, straight to the dungeon. No questions asked. I was immediately guilty because she said something that was a lie, but they believed it. I was stuck in the dungeons for doing absolutely nothing wrong that I was told that I did wrong. But I still had a choice to have a good attitude. And even in the dungeon, there's little things that a person can do. As I was faithful in doing those small things, the guy who was in charge said, "Joseph, you're doing a good job. I want you to be in charge of all these inmates on this side." Wow, that was a responsibility. Okay? And before long, he said, "I want you to be in charge of everything in the dungeon, in the prison area, because you are doing what's right in here. You're not a troublemaker. I want you to be in charge. Under me, you are in charge of the prison." Wow. That was quite an honor. I was still a prisoner, but I was given the responsibility, and God used that privilege for something amazing. A couple months into it, a couple of the prisoners that were in there had a dream. They both had these strange dreams on the same night. One of them was the king's baker, and the other was the king's butler, a cupbearer. And they had such a strange look on their face when I did my rounds, checking on each inmate to see how they were doing, that I saw them. I said, "Well, what's wrong? Are you okay?" And they said, "No, we're just feeling awful about these dreams we had. I don't know what they mean, and I know they mean something." And I said, "Tell me your dreams. I'm not an interpreter, but God can give the interpretation of the dreams." So the butler, the cupbearer, said, "I'll tell you my dream." He said, "In my dream, there was a branch with 3 vines coming off of it. and each vine had beautiful grapes growing on it. And I took my cup that I used to give to Pharaoh, and I put it underneath, and I squeezed all that juice into that cup, and I took it and I presented it to Pharaoh. And he took that cup. It doesn't make any sense to me. And God gave me the interpretation of that dream. I said, here is what this dream means. God has given the interpretation. In 3 days' time, you are going to be taken out of the prison, and you're going to be restored to your position, serving the king once again. Oh, and he was really excited about this. And I said, when this happens, please tell Pharaoh that I'm in here for no reason, and see if you can influence him to get me out of here. I can have my freedom back or go back to serving in Potiphar's house. He said, I'll do that. And then the butler came. The baker. He had a dream also. And he got excited when he heard the first dream that maybe it's going to happen to him too. So he said, this was my dream. I dreamt that I baked all this beautiful bread. And I put it all into 3 baskets, and I put the baskets up on my head. And I was going to go deliver it to Pharaoh. But I never made it there. Before I got there, the birds all came down, and they were pecking at the bread and ate all the bread out of the baskets before I could even get to Pharaoh. What does this mean? Well, this was a little bit harder for me, because God gave the interpretation of the dream that I could give to him, but it wasn't a pleasant one. I said, the 3 baskets represent 3 days also. And in 3 days, you are going to be taken out of prison. You're going to go before Pharaoh, and he's going to have you killed. My heart ached saying it, but when God gave the interpretation, that's what I needed to say. I wanted to be honest about it. And in 3 days' time, that's exactly what happened. The cupbearer was restored to his position, serving the Pharaoh. And the baker, he was taken out and killed, just like God gave the meaning of the dreams to be. So I was excited on one hand that the cupbearer made it to his position, because now maybe Pharaoh will hear my case and get me out of here. So I waited, and I faithfully went about the work in the prison that I was supposed to be doing. And I waited, and I waited, and I waited until pretty soon I gave up hope. A year goes by, no word. A year and a half. Finally, 2 years later, Pharaoh has a dream. And in Pharaoh's dream, he had a couple of very strange events happening. And when he woke up, just sitting very unsettling within him. And so he called the magicians. He called his servants and said, I've had a dream. I don't know what it means, and I need to find out. So he told them the dreams, and they were strange. And they said, Pharaoh, we don't have any idea what these dreams mean. And then the cupbearer heard what was going on. And he said, oh, I was supposed to tell you, Pharaoh, that there was someone in prison with me that was able to interpret dreams, and he asked me to talk to you about him. Both the baker and I had dreams, and he told us what they meant, and they came true. His name is Joseph. So Pharaoh said, you get him out of prison right now and get him up here. I need this dream interpreted. So they came for me. They got me dressed nice. They got me shaved nice and clean. I felt like a real person again being out of prison. And I came before Pharaoh. And Pharaoh said, I've been told that you can interpret dreams. I said, Pharaoh, I would be happy to interpret, but I don't have the interpretation of dreams. Only the one true God in heaven can do that. But he can give the interpretation. Tell me your dreams, and he'll give the interpretation. So Pharaoh says, okay. I had a dream that I was on the bank of the river, and out of the river came walking 7 beautiful, very large cows. And they came up on the bank, and they started grazing. And right behind them, here comes 7 scrawny, bony cows right behind the first, and they ate them. And after they were done eating, they were just as skinny as when they started. That was a little strange. He said, but it didn't stop there. The next part of my dream was 7 stalks of wheat came out of the river. up onto the bank. Beautiful, full, perfect for harvesting. And then right behind those 7 came 7 other stalks of grain that were weazened, diseased, and awful, and they consumed the first 7. And they were still just as gross looking then. What does this mean? I didn't have a clue. But God gave me the interpretation of the dream. And I was able to tell Pharaoh, this is what your dreams mean. There's going to be a time, 2 times, 2 different year sets of 7. The first 7, the fat cows and the good wheat, are going to represent 7 good years of plenty. We are going to have beautiful harvest. Your animals will do wonderfully. They'll thrive. But the nasty cows and the nasty grain represent the next group of 7 years of famine. There will be no food growing. The animals will die. There won't be enough for everyone, and because of that, the people will die. God is warning you, Pharaoh, by giving you these dreams, that there is something tragic that's going to happen. You need to find someone to put in charge. They can rule over all your lands and make sure the harvest is taken in to prepare for the 7 good years and take all the preparations, so when the 7 years of famine hit, we'll be okay. Well, Pharaoh appreciated my little bits of wisdom. He didn't exactly give glory to the Lord for it, but that's where it came from. And he says, you know, you're right. And he pointed his finger at me and said, Joseph, you're the man. You are going to be right underneath me. I'm going to give you my very own signet ring. Put it on your finger, and anything that you say needs to happen, people will listen to you. Besides me, no one will tell you what to do. This was a huge responsibility. God had a plan all along for my life. My brothers not liking me, throwing me in the pit, the caravan coming, being sold to Egypt, being in prison, seeing the dreams, Pharaoh's dreams, and here I am now, the second in command of all of Egypt. The responsibility was great, but God had prepared me for this. I had a big job to do, and I was looking forward to doing it.
So we've heard from Joseph about his life, about his early experiences and the things that his brothers did to him and how he responded to those and what happened. As we look at Joseph, as we think about his life, as we think about the things that he went through, there are 3 thoughts that I want us to remember. Look at Joseph and look at his honesty. Look at his integrity. And look at his humility. Now, when we first see him and we see him telling about his dreams and talking to his brothers there, maybe he's not being quite as humble as he could be, but he's being honest. He's telling what God had revealed to him. As he goes through and he deals with all of these things in his life, those characteristics of honesty, of integrity, and of humility continually play out. And God uses those and develops those things in him. And that's how he is able to be the servant that God needs. So as we're looking at this, we have some discussion questions and some things that you might want to think about as you have watched the story of Joseph's life. And how was God at work in these situations? Think about how God used all of those different experiences, all of those different things to work out his plan. Not Joseph's plan, not the plan of the brothers, not Pharaoh's plan, not Potiphar's plan or Potiphar's wife's plan, but to work out God's plan. And as he went through those things, as Joseph was experiencing those things, he saw God at work, and he trusted God. And because he trusted God, he remained that effective servant, and God was able to continue to use him. So do we see as we watch this, as we think about what Joseph was going through, do we see him grow from his time as a young boy with older brothers and the dreams that he's having then and all of the things he's being kind of spoiled by his father with the special coat and everything. And from there until he's in a prison in Egypt and waiting for someone to help him, to get him out of there. What changes did Joseph go through? How did he change? What made him different by the end of that?